and welcome back to what might well be the last lore episode. I am Silvermont, or Alex, and as I said, this might be the last one. I'm not sure about that, but for now this is the last one I have planned. If there's any demand for more, then I can certainly do that. Anyway, today's episode, well, from gods to dragons, we've now discussed a good portion of the most powerful beings in the Dark Souls universe. We've theorized whether Artorias is stronger than Ornstein, the nature of his relationship with Kieran, who Priscilla's parents are and why she's in the Painted World, and of course, in the very first episode, we discussed the identity of Gwyn's firstborn. Now, the gods and the dragons weave an intricate tale, but we've not spoken much of the undead and the humans, who are of course very important. I mean, the player character is the chosen undead, and they are what the whole story revolves around. So this is what we're going to do right now, in the final episode, at least for now, of Dark Souls lore. And who is the topic of today's video? Why, it's the Onion Knights, and no, not Davos. Siegmeyer of Catarina and his daughter Sieglinde. Let's start with the names of the father-daughter combo. Siegmeyer and Sieglinde. You'll have to excuse my pronunciation, as usual. As far as I am aware, Sieg is German for victory, no? If you've been alive for more than 5 seconds, then you've probably heard of a person or character whose name derives from Sieg in some way. And if you play a lot of video games, then you probably know of Sigurd and Siegfried. Granted, those two are kind of the same in like the historical sense, blah blah. But I was thinking about Sigurd and Siegfried from video games, like Soul Calibur, for example. Sigurd is perhaps one of the most famous heroes in Europe, I would say. He's the central character of the Volsung saga. Sigurd and Siegfried are not the same name, but they both share the element of Sieg, which means victory. As for the second half, Maya, it seems to be a common German name. Also, Sid Meier's video games. Different spelling, but whatever, Alpha Centauri. But the man, Siegmeyer, has a noble name, no? You might not immediately see why I bring this up, but the name of a character is often very important and can tell you a lot about them and their design and the concept that went into them. So, Siegmeyer has a noble name and comes from the land of Catarina. We know little of Catarina, besides that it's a female name and there are a dozen places in the real world called Catarina, most of which are in Central or Southern America. The name itself is Portuguese as far as I'm aware. Does that mean Catarina in Dark Souls is, that sort of thing? Would it have similar geography as Central America? Maybe like a Spanishy theme? Probably not, but considering how little we know of the place, see, most of the NPCs don't give much away with their regional accents. But something we do know of Catarina, it is home to proud knights who are often ridiculed for their peculiar shaped armor. Outside Catarina, it is often ridiculed for their onion-like shape, infuriating the proud knights. But the masterfully forged curved design makes it effective for parrying. And that's about all we know, other than that Catarina is known for festivity and drink. And of course, there is the jubilant Catarina, the happiest of the starting templates. I think Siegmeyer and Sieglinde are the only characters from Catarina we meet. And slightly off topic, but if you could know more about one of the major areas that we don't visit in the first game, what would it be? Astora, Balder, Catarina, Karim, Thorland, the Great Swamp, or Xena? And where do you think the city in the prologue movie that plays when you start a new game, where do you think that city is supposed to be? Lordran? Well, my money's on Astora, judging from what we know of it, and the fact that the Dead Knight is wearing, well, the knight armor which is typically associated with Astora, although by no means is it exclusive to Astora. But what do you think? Where is that city? But I went wildly off topic there. Back onto the subject at hand. Siegmeyer and Sieglinde. 2 Knights of Catarina. We first meet Siegmeyer outside Sen's fortress, and our first meeting tells us quite a lot about the poor man. For starters, he's an adventurer, obviously, and he wants to get into Sen's. It also obviously lets us know that he has no problem sleeping in this accursed land of eternal misery and foul-spurting juices. Next up, we meet him inside Sen's, at a loss at how to get past the boulders. Then we meet him in Anolondo, then Firelink, then Blighttown, Lost Izalith, and finally Ash Lake. Each time we meet him, we end up saving or helping the unfortunate, or perhaps incompetent, adventurer, despite him never outright asking us for assistance, with the exception of Blighttown, where he asks us if we have any antitoad moss, whatever that's supposed to mean. But what is he doing in all of these places? Solaire is searching for his own son. Lautrec seems to be after humanity, as does Kirk. Griggs is, well, probably just helping Logan. Laurentius, who I have not spoken about much, presumably has his own goals too. But Siegmeyer? He doesn't seem to care about the prophecy, and he doesn't seem to want to become a dragon, or find a legendary sword, or do anything. And yeah, that was a super not subtle reference to Shiva's content. Anyway, Siegmeyer seems to be an adventurer in the classic sense of the word. He is here in Lordran because he wants to be here. All he seems to want is adventure itself, without any reward in mind. In fact, I feel like Siegmeyer purposefully doesn't want his adventure to end in the sense of having any goal. He doesn't want to reach Anolondo and have that as his goal, because he wouldn't know what to do with himself after. The man is undead, unlike his daughter, who seems to be human, and cut content, like cut dialogue, confirms that she is. So, let us assume that Siegmeyer has no real goal, no end game. All he wants, is to explore and fight, and generally have a jolly old adventuring time. But his daughter? Well, she does have a goal. Sieglinde is searching for her undead father, whom she killed at least once before. This is where it starts to get interesting. Sieglinde doesn't hate her father. She doesn't kill him out of rage or anger, most likely. Why did she kill him? She states that if he goes hollow, I'll just have to kill him again. Does that mean he went hollow once before? I don't think so. As far as we know, there is no way to come back once you go hollow. Yeah, in the game you can actually reverse hollowing and restore your humanity, but that's just a game mechanic. From a lore perspective, turning hollow seems to be losing your sanity and becoming a husk. The undead merchants, though, are physically hollow but mentally sound. Well, as sound as anyone in Lordran is. They retain their faculties and their sentience, so to speak, whereas most of the hollows, they don't speak and they don't really do anything other than attack you, a non-hollow. But maybe this is why Siegmeyer is on his adventure. Maybe after he became undead, Sieglinde killed him because the people of Catarina didn't want an undead in their midst, and who can blame them? So she killed him and sort of cast him out, and then he left on his adventure. Could be, but we know why she is searching for him. Siegmeyer's wife and Sieglinde's mother is dead, and she wishes to pass on her mother's final words. What they are, we don't know. We do know that shortly after Siegmeyer hears them, he turns hollow, and Sieglinde kills him for the final time. But is that really why he went hollow when he heard his wife's final words? Now, I'm saying his wife, it might not have been his wife. As far as I'm aware, she's never referred to as his wife, simply as Sieglinde's mother. And of course, Siegmeyer is the father, which would, you would assume from that it's his wife, but, well, you don't know. You can't be sure. But her death and her parting words do seem to have played a large part in him going hollow. I mean, his last words, if you kill him, are, "My dear little Lin," referring, of course, to his daughter. So his family must mean a lot to him, even though he does kind of abandon them, being undead and all. But I don't think that's the main reason he went hollow. Now, I have a little theory that I've waffled on about in some of these videos, and in my full playthrough of Dark Souls. Characters have their own ways to prevent their hollowing. Maybe they don't realise they're doing it, but it's something they do. A quirk, perhaps, that they use to try and keep hollowing at bay. Many of them laugh when it's not really an amusing situation, for example. And Siegmeyer, well, he goes on adventures. And for some reason the man can sleep in the middle of a poison swamp. But no, I feel the main reason he goes hollow is because of us. Can you imagine, every time you run into trouble, someone infinitely more competent than you pops up and does what you cannot? They open the gates, you could not. They stop the trap, you could not. They defeat the Silver Knights, you could not. They have the moss, you do not. It's humiliating and a blow to the knight's pride. Now, some people have no pride, and they won't understand. Who cares? Surely, all you're doing is helping the man get further along. In some cases, you're outright saving his life. But at the same time, you are showing the man that you are so much better, that he is essentially worthless. In saving Siegmeyer, you kill his pride. In a very real sense, we are the ones who turned him hollow. We stole his reason for adventuring, and we turned his reasoning hollow, and showed him that it was empty. A very good example of this. If you defeat the Chaos Eaters in Lost Izalith by yourself, he says, "I feel like I'm always thanking you. I curse my own inability." He refers to himself and the player as equals when you meet him in Anor Londo, implying that he wants to be equal to the player, despite constantly being proved otherwise. The constant humiliation of being saved by the player, by us, and then having his daughter find him and deliver such news. Is it any wonder that he goes hollow? Is there more to Siegmeyer's tale, however? We know that he ends up turning hollow in Ash Lake, and meeting his end at Sieglinde's hands. At least, that's what she tells us, and she seems to be genuine. But there is a little more, yeah. For starters, there were a few cut encounters with him that didn't make it into the final game. For example, there was an event where he would be trapped in a cage, perhaps where Logan is in Sens, and another where he's perplexed by the basilisks in the depths, having not found a way to get past their petrifying breath. Although he considers shooting them in the eyes. At least it could have been the depths. It might well have been the Great Hollow for all we know. The basilisks are in both those places. The cut dialogue is also what confirms that Lin, the daughter, is not undead, which has interesting implications. I mean, obviously not everyone we meet got to Lordran via the Raven, and Siegmeyer sounds notably disheartened when he speaks of his daughter. And what about little Lin? Quite the dedicated knight to travel all that way to deliver a message. Unfortunately, she fell prey to what was most likely Seath's mischief. The dragon has an obsession with females, it seems. But why is the albino sending his channelers to kidnap women and put them into golems? Could it be that he's so obsessed with immortality and life that it's turned into an obsession with women who are, classically thought of as the givers of life. I mean, that would certainly explain his obsession with, perhaps his very probable obsession with Guinevere, who is not only a woman and, makes life by popping babies out of her bits, but she's also the goddess of, fertility and bounty. I think it makes sense, seeing as he is definitely obsessed with life and becoming immortal, conquering life. This is a question for another day, though, about Seath and his weird fetishes. I can't say that word, can I? Fetishes, blah. But we do find Lin in a crystal golem all the same. She doesn't even seem to be all that perturbed by it. It's like, oh, sure, I'm locked in a giant golem, but it's all good. But she is grateful to be liberated from it either way, and her equipment is very close to Siegmeyer's, only she uses a bastard sword and Siegmeyer uses a Zweihander, two-hander, whatever. Damn you Dark Souls with all your hard to pronounce German words. Although I guess it's probably harder for the Japanese developers to pronounce it. Do you think? I don't know. Maybe, maybe not. Maybe they're good at pronouncing German. I wouldn't know. But could Sieglinde's using a bastard sword have a deeper meaning? I mean, sure, it's basically just a smaller version of the Zweihander, but why not a claymore? Why a bastard sword? Siegmeyer does refer to Lin's mother as her mother and not my wife. So, who knows? Maybe Lin was a bastard. Can a girl be a bastard? Yeah, a girl can be a bastard. I wasn't entirely sure, but I'm pretty sure they can. Anyway, Lin declares if we attack her and are killed by her, that she will kill us as many times as it takes, assuming that we've gone hollow. So she has a good understanding of the undead and of hollowing, and firm resolve at that. After all, how many daughters could kill their own father? Twice. The next time you play Dark Souls, try paying special attention to Siegmeyer and his daughter and their sad story. Listen to their dialogue. Listen to how many times Siegmeyer speaks of honour, shame and pride when he refers to himself as a knight of Catarina. Sometimes there are no good and happy endings. Perhaps the best ending Siegmeyer could have hoped for was to die fighting the Chaos Eaters, to go out in a blaze of glory, knowing no man could name Siegmeyer of Catarina craven.
My father, all hollow now, has been subdued. He will cause no more trouble. Oh, Father, dear Father,